It's no secret that the president is using the White House and his office to make money. He did that during his first term, but he's been doing it more and more in our faces in this second term. And maybe no way more so has he done that than with cryptocurrency. Now, I haven't talked a whole lot about this on the show, partly because I don't really understand how a lot of it works, but thankfully, my guest today does. Zach Everson is the research director at Public Citizen and the head of their Trump Accountability Project, and he has been tracking all of this stuff from the very beginning. He's a former Forbes reporter who also tracked this stuff there. We talked today about how Trump was able to increase his net worth multiple times over, how the use of cryptocurrency has allowed him to peddle influence from the White House and use backdoor deals to allow foreign countries and potentially bad actors to peddle influence with him while funneling hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, into his own bank account, the bank accounts of his children, and his businesses, all while it's being done more or less in broad daylight right in front of us. We also talk about what it's going to take to stop another president, Democrat or Republican, from doing something like this again, because what Trump has really done is not just made all this money and done so while laughing at the American people while doing it, but he's also opened a Pandora's box of using the Oval Office and the office of the presidency as a get-rich-quick scheme in a way that it was never intended to be used. It's Friday, June 5th, 2026. Welcome to Make It Make Sense. I'm Grant Hermes. Well, Zach, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm a big fan of the work that you guys do at Public Citizen, so this is a real treat to have you on, specifically the work that you do, partly because it's some of the most fundamental work that I think has to be done in this administration right now, and also because I wanted to see you face to face, because I'm kind of worried about your health. I'm kind of worried about your mental health and how you are. So first and foremost, are you okay? Are you fine?
Yeah, I'm in year 10 of covering Trump's business interest. I'm fine. I have no problems.
Yeah.
No, one of my friends saw a TV clip from me recently, and he's like, "Dude, you need some sleep." It's not gonna argue with that.
Don't we all? I want to start with what you do in this accountability project here. How do you start? I mean, how do you even look at this monolith of corruption and outright illegality and go, that's the part where I'm gonna start chipping away at this thing? How does that work?
That's a great question, because I had to ask myself that at the beginning of Trump too. I was still at Forbes at that time when he got reelected. I was a reporter there, focusing on money and politics, which was not supposed to be that much Trump, but then of course bloomed back into Trump pretty much nonstop. So I did an article that we published on Inauguration Day showing all the people who had visited Mar-a-Lago between when he was elected and when he was sworn in. And it was astounding. I mean, that's what I had done the first term, was tracking who was at Trump properties, largely at his now defunct hotel here in DC, but looking to see who was there, who they might be talking to, who was spending money, what sort of benefits might be bestowed on them later. So I did this article for Forbes, and it was massive, the amount of people that were there. I think the Republican governors had already had a meeting there. Republican members of Congress at there. I mean, it was numbers that took years to amass at the Trump Hotel, which again, in DC, just a few blocks from the Capitol. Mar-a-Lago, down in Florida,
right?
Nobody's district except one member of Congress got a ton of people. So I put this report out, and it's astounding. And I'm like, this isn't where the money is this term. Mm-hmm. This is certainly, it's going to show us what we knew from the last term, that people will go to Trump properties to spend money and curry favor. But the money we're talking is going to be minuscule compared to what he's going to pull in through crypto, which was problematic for me because I did not know much at all about crypto. Yeah. I literally started by watching, Masterclass.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had gotten my dad a subscription to that for Christmas a few years ago. And as I'm doing this, I'm like, well, got to start somewhere with crypto. So I watched the masterclass on crypto, which was taught with Paul Krugman, formerly of the New York Times, in CZ of Binance, formerly of Jail. And it really gave me a great introduction to it. I mean, every episode started off with a disclaimer saying, CZ on these segments said it was like the Wild West and it was evolving legal landscape. Well, CZ is now in jail.
Right.
Here, enjoy this show. So, yeah, I just hopped in. I mean, the money we're looking at is astronomical compared to what it was the first term. So that's kind of what I decided to prioritize on was, we're in crypto because we're talking billions of dollars there as opposed to, maybe $100,000 for a ballroom rental.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between the first and second term is that there were so many stories that, I remember I was writing and I was talking about on TV and these things about how the president was violating, the Hatch Act, or all these people were currying favor. I was working here in Detroit at that point in time for a local station, and there were members of the state legislature who were taking trips down to the DC hotel and doing those things. And so all that was happening all at once, but that was its own thing. And now this cryptocurrency stuff and the other, the corporate no bid contracts that are happening around all the projects the president is doing, that seems so both in the open, but also hidden in a certain way. And I think that's difficult for most people to get their arms around.
It is. People hear crypto and they're, they don't have the reaction I did where it's like, oh, let's learn about this in masterclass. It's like, don't want to learn it. And also, of course it's corrupt. It's cryptocurrency. It's not legit.
Yeah.
So they back away from that. And then there's just the expectation of Donald Trump. He's multiple bankruptcies, conviction of business fraud. I mean, there's just kind of the expectation that, of course, he's doing it. But the money is insane. One of the things that really struck out to me is that my colleagues at Forbes looked at how much Donald Trump is worth.
Mm-hmm.
And up until about 2021, he would have done better to take his inheritance and stick it in an index fund.
Right.
It wasn't until he got out of office the first time that he actually outperformed an index fund. And how did that happen? That happened through Truth Social and Trump Media by the stocks there, and it happened by crypto. I mean, that is what's really made him successful as a businessman beyond just being a Nepo baby.
Right. There are certain people here, right, in this crypto space, in some of these other spaces that he's involved in or his family's involved in through their businesses that say, he's just doing good business. But it strikes me that that's probably not really what's happening here. So what actually is happening?
Yeah, there are actually a lot of crypto proponents who think he's not good for crypto. They think he's giving it a bad name. He is showing the worst case scenarios for all these different crypto products. So what the Trumps have done, and Donald Trump famously said he thought crypto was thin air.
Right.
Well, he realized that you can actually make money out of thin air. You can make a lot of money out of thin air. So, first they launched the NFTs, which are kind of like digital trading cards, art with the underlying crypto attached to it that shows, oh, that's actually mine. They launched those. It was a marketing deal. It did pretty well.
Right.
Then right before during the campaign, they launched World Liberty Financial. It was in September, a couple months before election. The timing really strikes me because that was about the same timing in the last campaign that he launched his DC hotel.
Right.
So here you've got it in the waning days of 2 elections, he's launching big products. World Liberty Financial was going to be decentralized finance. They didn't really explain what they were going to do. They were going to sell some tokens and you could vote on issues involving the tokens. So they put that out and he did well. He made like $50 million on the first 3 months it was out there before he was even president. So not bad. I'm really looking to see what he discloses he made in 2025 when that disclosure comes due in a couple months. Then right before the election, he launched the meme coin. And now meme coins are completely worthless.
Yeah.
They don't even have like voting rights in something you don't care about or some easily reproduced art image attached to them. They are just strictly hype. And again, did really well in that. Those prices shot up. And then we learned after a few months into his term, they launched the stable coin. World Liberty Financial launched USD1. And I think I heard you talking about this previously, where the first use case scenario was an investment firm backed by the National Security Advisor for the United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
Used $2 billion of that USD1 to invest in Binance, a crypto exchange that is banned from the United States and has had all sorts of legal problems.
Yes.
So those are really how we got involved in this and where the money comes up and what those different Trump crypto products are. And then Don Jr. and Eric have taken that even in more directions.
Yeah. And it seems to me that the way that Trump himself is now understanding crypto is not itself inherently valuable, although it has value to him in that way, but that it's good for deals like that with, you know, the Binance CEO, right? Is that it can facilitate this other kind of thing he wants to get done that will then create the thing that he does see as inherent value, whether that is, you know, with the CEO who then I think went and worked for World Liberty for a little bit, if I remember that right.
They donated some they donated some software and did some consulting on setting up the pipes to get World Liberty Financial running.
Right. Or like it is, you know, the members of the GCC or the Gulf states, right, using World Liberty to sort of like grease the wheels of whatever they'd like to happen in this way. And so then you have this sort of backdoor thing happening, whether it's, you know, actual military arms sales in places like Saudi Arabia or UAE or Qatar, or it is to facilitate something like a Trump resort in Riyadh that he'd like to get built. Are you finding that all of those doors suddenly sort of open up after the president does this?
That's the thing you don't know with Donald Trump. He doesn't explicitly say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and lift this Biden era embargo on the UAE getting computer chips because we think they might sell them to China because they just spent $2 billion. But it just happens in that sort of sequence.
Right.
So we don't really know. You know, I think what Trump saw with crypto is he has for decades made decent money slapping his name on buildings, you know, just having marketing deals, putting his name on knives, cologne, Bibles, watches, you name it. He will put his name on it. Now he's just doing that with crypto. You know, there's no tangible product. There's no watch to do it. It's just all branding. And
right.
You know, there's more money and a lot less overhead.
Yeah, I would say there's no overhead in actually having a product to build. You can just do the meme coin and just do the hype, which is his favorite thing because that's all his business, quote unquote, actually is, right?
Exactly. And I wanted to see what was entailed to create a meme coin. So one Saturday afternoon on my couch, I created an account at pump.fun and created my own meme coin. It took 15 minutes and maybe about $5 to $10 just to get it started. And people immediately bought it. You know, then they dumped it and it's worthless, but it does not take much at all to build a meme coin. So if you create one, but have the infrastructure of Donald Trump on it, you're going to make some money for nothing.
How does the meme coin then actually make money? If it's always worthless, how does that turn into actual money? I don't understand that part of it.
So when it gets traded, he gets a cut. So again, remember, he put nothing into this. So even if that meme coin is trading at a cent and he's got, you know, a couple million of these things, he's still getting a little money out of it. But then he gets a cut every time it is traded on the secondary market. And by he, it's referred to the company that owns it, the LLCs that are behind it.
Sure. Okay. So in terms of the overall dollar amount that we think at this moment the president has maybe made off of this crypto corruption, I'm going to call it, what are you pegging that at right now?
Well, all told, Forbes pegged that at about $1.8, $1.9 billion that he has made from crypto. And this is largely since he was reelected. His crypto ventures hadn't really taken off until he got elected, which, you know, kind of interesting there.
Weird.
So a substantial amount of money. I mean, his net worth is, I think he's around like $6.9 billion. So this is a substantial amount of his net worth is coming from these crypto ventures.
Right. So if it's somewhere between 1.4 and 1.8, that's roughly $1 billion a month since he's been president, more or less, which is that right? No.
1.8. No.
No.
100 billion.
100 billion. Yes. Yeah. Which is still a lot of money. That's insane.
Yeah. No, he's doing well. And there's room to grow. You know, these things can certainly take off, bring in more money. You know, we've seen one of the things with the that UAE investment firm using World Liberty Financial's USD1 was it took that from being a nothing stablecoin to all of a sudden it is now on the top 10 list. I think last time I looked, it was like number 5 in terms of market cap. So if you're just looking at stablecoins there, all of a sudden this looks like a viable product because the UAE dumped a lot of money into it and now Binance is sitting on it. And that also gives Binance some control because Binance, you know, I don't know if they exactly have all that $2 billion still of it, but that's leverage they have. I mean, that is money they can drop. The way Trump and World Liberty Financial make money off of that is that the UAE gave World Liberty Financial $2 billion. World Liberty Financial then invests that $2 billion in treasuries and similar short-term investment funds, and they get the interest.
Right.
So meanwhile, if Binance was to then go dump some of that $2 billion that it's sitting on, that would mean less interest for Trump and other business partners in World Liberty Financial.
Right. And I think the big thing here is that it's not just that the president is profiting off of this crypto scam that he's running, basically, right? These coins. It's that also that this is another way to influence the president, that is this black box that we can't see into, that there really is no transparency. And I think that's the reason why you're doing so much tracking of this. Am I wrong in thinking about it that way?
No. And that's it. Like, crypto can, blockchain transactions are public. You don't necessarily know who's behind the accounts, but you can see what accounts are behind it. There's some really good forensic blockchain firms that can take a look into this that will see, like, oh, X percentage of, holders of this Trump coin are overseas. Sometimes you can just see it for yourself, putting a couple things together. So Binance, again, not allowed for US in the United States.
Right.
Currently, again, last I checked, it was like 85% of the USD1 stablecoin was being held at Binance. So if the rules are being followed, that means 85% of Trump's stablecoin is being held overseas.
Right.
I mean, you could just look at that. That took 3 seconds to look at a website called Arcam to see that out. So yeah, you've got the easy way to ingratiate yourself. And it's obvious in some extent. You see it with the meme coin dinners. They had that dinner up here at the golf course in the DC area. They had another event in Mar-a-Lago where the largest holders of the meme coin get to go there. And hey, the president's there. And if you look at their website right now for the meme coin, it shows Trump with the presidential seal on the podium right there. I mean, it's clear. And then there's also, beyond just the buying influence, you've got emoluments concerns, which another one of those phrases that people gloss over. They looked at it in the first term. It's basically, archaic language of whether or not the president is accepting money from a foreign government or from a state government. There were lawsuits in the first term. They got to the Supreme Court on standing. Trump lost. Suits were tossed. We never found out even really who had standing to sue. I believe there's only been one case brought so far this term. But going back to World Liberty Financial, came out a few months ago in this great article in the Wall Street Journal that just days before Trump was sworn in, they sold 49% of World Liberty Financial to the national security advisor of the UAE, the same guy who we talked about earlier, who directed $2 billion. Well, another firm he's involved with is a major business partner of World Liberty Financial. This routed hundreds of millions of dollars to Trump family enterprises, also $100 million in change, I think, to Steve Witkoff, the Trump Trump peace envoy, who is also, his family's involved in World Liberty Financial. They got hundreds of millions of dollars right before Trump was elected. Right. And that seems like a very interesting case if someone was to bring it about whether or not it violates the emoluments clause.
I want to talk to you about sleep. Because if you've been following this show, you know the news cycle has been absolutely unhinged. And if the news cycle isn't going to be good to you, your sleep cycle should be. And that starts with the right fabric. And it's why this episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. Here's the thing. Summer is here and it is hot. You're already lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking about the headlines, your deadlines, that weird thing you said at work. The last thing you need is to also be sweating through your sheets like you're having a fever dream. That is where Cozy Earth comes in. Bamboo sheets are legitimately temperature regulating, meaning they keep you cool when it's hot and warm when it's not. I know that sounds like marketing speak, but it is just how bamboo works. It breathes. Your polyester blend from 5 years ago, it does not breathe. It traps heat. It is not your friend. They also have bamboo pajamas, which make you wonder why you ever wore anything else to bed. And when I wake up, I put on their new brushed bamboo joggers that are soft in a way that feels almost unfair to the rest of my clothes. Look, the world is a lot right now, and you deserve one thing, at least, that just works. Cozy Earth is that thing. You can go to CozyEarth.com and use the code MIMS25 at checkout for 30% off. And just a heads up, when you use the code, Make It Make Sense gets a cut of that sale, which helps this show keep going. So you're sleeping better and you're supporting independent journalism, which is, what I call a win-win. Again, the code is MIMS25 at CozyEarth.com. All right, let's get back to the show. For you, is it the crypto where this sort of waterfall of corruption starts and then everything sort of spills out from there? Or is it different pockets of this that are happening? Is this just one sort of pot he's dipping his hand into here?
Yeah, I think it started all with the hotels and the drinks and what he could get away with. And if you look at what happened in the first term, it's really surprising looking at it from hindsight, where in the first term, there was no trumpstore.com. If the website was there, but it just directed people to a physical retail store in Trump Tower, New York. And then in the middle of the term, it started advertising like golf shirts, but nothing really branded to the presidency. They also, at one point during the first term, introduced a soap set. Now, the middle bar of the soap set was wrapped in the White House. It had the White House on the wrapper.
Right.
I reported on that. They walked it back. All of a sudden now, if you wanted to buy the soap set, the middle bar did not have a wrapper. Famously, they tried to get the G7 at Doral, and there was such an outcry. They walked it back.
Right.
Well, that's not happening this term. Looking at the Trump store, within hours of him being elected, they were out with an email blast advertising the 45-47 collection. They have an America 250 collection. They have absolutely embraced the presidency there. They're looking at having, was it the G20 at Doral? No pushback this time. So they saw what they could get away with. And okay, we're able to do this with t-shirts and, hotels and golf resorts. Let's build it up. Let's see what else we can get away with.
And
from there, you get
international
the
summit, I guess. Yeah,
exactly. And it's the money you can make from crypto is infinite. So, much easier to make a lot of money on that than selling t-shirts and cocktails.
Why do you think we care less this time around? Is it just that we are exhausted after 10 years of this? Is it that there's just more and so we can't get our arms around all of it? Is it that there are fewer journalists and news organizations working to do this work right now because of the attacks on the press? Is it all of those things? Is it none of those things? I know that's a big question, but what do you think it is?
I think there's several answers. First of all, it's Donald Trump. And the American people have decades of experience with Donald Trump and know what he is. They know about the felony business fraud convictions. They know about the bankruptcies. It's Donald Trump. What do you expect? The guy will slap his name on anything. He's a celebrity. So I think the expectations of what Donald Trump can get away with are certainly different than what you would find other politicians be able to. So I think that's part of it is like, it's Donald Trump, of course.
Yeah.
I think part of it is, yes, we are like, when he got reelected, my thought that morning when I saw the results was like, all right, there was all this reporting on the first term, and the American people just decided they're okay with it. We're good. We're going to come back to the for-profit presidency. So I think that's part of it. Like we've just said, okay, it's not the biggest issue out there. There's a fair amount of reporting on it. I honestly don't think there's a lack of reporting on it this term. The attacks on the press have certainly matter, but I think you're finding just as much coverage in that. You've seen the Times is doing an excellent job. Wall Street Journal, my former colleagues at Forbes are all over this stuff. It just doesn't necessarily break through.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that really bothers me is that there was so much coverage of Hunter Biden. And what Hunter Biden did was wrong.
Yeah.
It was along the lines, though, of what like Neil Bush and Billy Carter and Roger Clinton and all those other, it was wrong. Like, it is nothing compared to what Don Jr. and Eric have done this term. Eric Trump's net worth has gone up tenfold. He is now worth like $400 million, according to Trump. According to Forbes. At one time, his net worth was over $1 billion. Don Jr., up sevenfold. He is now an advisor to the two prediction markets, while also being on the board of Trump Media, which is getting into its own prediction. They're working in drones. They've got crypto deals. They've got pharmaceutical deals he's involved in. I mean, it is insane. And people I don't think that news gets out. And it just doesn't resonate. And I don't know why. That's one of the things I like about having changed from reporting to kind of an advocacy role is that as a reporter, you just kind of put it out and what happens.
Yeah.
Whereas now I can keep kind of drilling this through. So, look at this. This is stuff you need to pay attention to.
Sure. One of the things that I think has broken through is this anti-weaponization slush fund in terms of reporting about corruption within the White House. And on the back end of that, or the addendum to that, is this IRS shield deal. Depending on who you talk to, which legal person you talk to, it's either just about the past audits, or it's forever future audits for the Trump family and businesses or whatever. I don't really want to litigate that with you because I don't think either of us actually know.
No.
But it is this thing where it seems to me that for some reason that kind of business corruption has broken through. The thing with paying supporters $1.8 billion, which is or isn't happening now because Todd Blanche crossed his fingers during a House hearing. Like, I don't know. But like,
Right.
it's this other thing that people saw this and said, what do you mean he's going to not have to face any kind of potential penalties? That I think has broken through. Were you kind of waiting for something like this to happen? Do you think that maybe that might let regular normie people kind of into the world that you've been in a bigger way?
Yeah, I've certainly been waiting for something to break through, like we saw in the first term with the G7, where all of a sudden that became a big thing, or when we saw that all of the Ukraine intervention stuff was happening at the Trump Hotel, like that also brought it through, and all of a sudden, what I was working in was elevated. So yeah, that could be it. I think again, by Forbes's math, the IRS deal could save from hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, what I think is causing it to break through is not the Trump business angle on it so much as it is the fact that these people are criminals and are going to be entitled to money. And you're looking at how many of them have gone on to commit other crimes. I mean, there's some really horrible people out there. When you look at the Proud Boys being able to qualify for money from this, I think that is a very easy visual for people to understand. You see the Proud Boys storming the Capitol, you see the the shaman out there, and next thing you see them getting money, and that is easier for people to register.
Yeah, Lawfare just put together a big database of all the people who have committed crimes, some of them worse than what they originally committed at the Capitol, since being pardoned by the president, who would have been eligible for this money or whatever it is if it goes through. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's incredible. Like I put up yesterday. As we kind of wind down here, I want to talk about some of the future accountability measures, because I have this sort of sneaking suspicion that in a post-Trump world, because that, as I said often on this podcast, like that's going to happen, and we're going to have to put Humpty Dumpty back together again here, and there's going to be a lot of that has to happen. How do we start in the world that you work in this corporate, presidential, for-profit presidency corruption space? How do we put guardrails up that weren't there before? How do we strengthen the ones that are there? And how do we fix the problems that we were just relying on presidents to be good dudes in the in the past? Because that's kind of what a lot of it is.
Yeah. No, norms, ethics, out the window. Doesn't matter. Shame, there is no shame anymore. Part of it is just documenting as much as you can. And that's really what I came into it the first time during the first term, where I wanted to document every member of Congress who was seen in that hotel, every foreign leader, every cabinet member. So this information would be out there. The issue is the information was out there. The American people elected a Democrat. They didn't do anything with it.
Right.
It's you've got to take these norms that we had and codify them as laws and enforce them quickly. I say this as somebody who's a Patriots fan. Donald Trump reminds me a lot of Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
If it's not a rule, who cares? If it's not going to be enforced quickly and the punishment's not severe enough, who cares? And that's what happened. The Democrats had 4 years to do something with this, and they didn't. So we're back at it now, and it's again chronicling all of this stuff. There's an opportunity with crypto bills that are coming through Congress that Public Citizen doesn't favor. That we really think that they should be treated as securities as opposed to commodities. But at a minimum, they should prevent the president of the United States from being able to market a crypto product. And you're seeing pushback on that. Republicans aren't for it. We're getting a lot of Democrats are, but it's putting in language like that where possible to try to break this down. But he's done so much that I really think it's going to take like a dedicated subcommittee on what has Trump done, what can we do to fix it to make sure this doesn't happen again, because that's it. Like, he has really shown a playbook here for what any other future president of either party could get away with, and it's not great for the American people.
Yeah. Well, Zach, I really appreciate your time on this and the work that you do. I know that it is a near impossible task, but I'm glad that somebody is doing it because it's invaluable as a resource for me in my reporting. So thank you so much for that and coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Grant. Appreciate it.
I want to thank Zach again for coming on the show. You can find a link to his work on cryptocurrency and the Trump Accountability Project and all the great work at Public Citizen that he and everyone there is doing. There are links in the description for this episode. And that is it for today's episode. Please rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. Like and subscribe if you're a watcher on YouTube. And share the show on social media. You can tag me at Grant Hermes on Twitter and Blue Sky and at Grant_Hermes on everything else. Thank you so much for listening today. I'm Grant Hermes, and I'll talk to you next time.